I just came across this Math.AS question that asked me to evaluate the cosine of the arc cosine of 2.2. Now, because the cosine function and the arc cosine are inverses, it's tempting to say that these will undo one another and that the answer will simply be 2.2. The problem is there's some domain and range issues with this problem. If you remember what the arc cosine is, it is indeed the inverse function of the cosine. So before I can do this entire problem, I first need to do the arc cosine of 2.2. So let me just pull that piece of the problem out over here. And to do this, I'm going to write its equivalent statement down in terms of cosine. Remember that cosine and arc cosine are inverse functions. So if I want to know what the output is in arc cosine when the input's 2.2, I can change the problem from arc cosine to cosine and simply switch the inputs and the outputs, because that is indeed the relationship between a function and its inverse. So the arc cosine of 2.2 really means give me the angle, right? The input into a cosine function is the angle. Give me the angle so that the cosine function outputs 2.2. But if you remember on the graph of cosine, the highest the graph ever goes is 1. Meaning if I was to draw a horizontal line y equals 2, you'd notice that the cosine function is never going to reach that high. These two curves will never intersect, and there'll never be a solution to this equation. So there is no such angle for which the cosine is going to be 2.2. So this is undefined, and in Math.AS, typically you don't write undefined, you write D and E because the answer does not exist.